In this video, I'm going to show you how to configure DHCP Snooping. DHCP Snooping is a Layer 2 security protocol from Cisco. And the purpose of DHCP Snooping is to prevent a host from spoofing a DHCP server. So what I've got here is a topology. I've got two hosts in VLAN 10, and these have to be enabled for DHCP to start with. There's the DHCP server. That's on a different subnet, 192.168.2. So the hosts have sent a DHCP request to the server, and they're waiting for TCP IP addressing to be assigned dynamically. And switch 1 has an uplink to this router 1, and then router 1 is connected to switch 2 that has the DHCP server. DHCP snooping is enabled globally, and it's also enabled per VLAN as well. And so what I'm going to do is enable it on VLAN 1, the management VLAN, and also VLAN 10. So with that, the default is all ports are untrusted. The only exception is these uplinks. I have to enable interface FA03 on switch 1 to be trusted, and also both interfaces on switch 2, since they're connected to the DHCP server. I'm going to leave the host as untrusted, since that's where a hacker would connect and try to spoof a DHCP server. So on the untrusted ports, that would be FA01 and FA02, if any of these hosts would send a DHCP offer message, then DHCP snooping would drop that traffic. And that would prevent a hacker from sending a DHCP offer to another host. The other thing that DHCP snooping does, it builds what's called a binding table. These are IP to MAC mapping addresses that are in the table itself, and DHCP snooping will build that based on the DHCP traffic sent between hosts and the DHCP server. So when a hacker connects to the network, the next thing will happen is there'll be a lookup in the binding table, and if that MAC address is not there, that traffic would be denied as well. So it does it with those two different methods. So we'll start on switch 1 here. The first command is IP DHCP snooping, and that's a global command that enables a service on the switch. And then I'll up arrow. Snooping is enabled per VLAN, so I'm going to enable it globally on VLAN 1 and 10 on that switch. And the next thing I'll do is configure FA03 as a trusted port, since that's an uplink. And there's the command there. Then this last command, IP DHCP snooping limit rate 40. And the purpose of this is to prevent denial of service attacks. So the number of DHCP requests per second is limited to 40. And that's all done. And now we'll go to switch 2 and configure that. And this is IP DHCP snooping VLAN 1 and 11. So the DHCP server is on VLAN 11. Now we'll configure FA01 and 02 as trusted. And rate limiting. And interface FA02. And that's done. And the last thing I want to do is configure IP helper address on R1. And what that does is that forwards DHCP requests from the host over to a DHCP server that's on a different subnet. So this is configured on the default gateway. That's FA00. There's the interface there. And the DHCP relay command is IP helper address 192.168.2.1. And there's the DHCP server address, 192.168.2.1. So if we go to switch 1 here, show IP DHCP Snooping. DHCP Snooping is enabled, and it's configured on VLANs 1 and 10. And then it's got the switch ports, 0, 1, and 0, 2. They're the hosts. They are not trusted. And FA03 is trusted. It's got rate limiting on it. So that's fine there. And switch 2, I'll just do the same thing. And it's enabled as well. And it's active on VLANs 1 and 11. And 0, 1, and 0, 2 interfaces are trusted. So for host 1, it's got an IP address 192.168.1.1, and that's from DHCP Server. And it's got the gateway address 192.168.1.3. That's FA00 there, 192.168.1.3 on R1. And host 2 also has a DHCP address 192.168.1.2, and it has the same gateway. It also has a DNS server, as does host 1. So that's all been configured from the DHCP server. So there, DHCP is enabled. And there, DHCP. The other thing I want to do is enable dynamic ARP inspection. It works with DHCP Snooping and actually requires the binding table that DHCP Snooping builds to verify any ARP spoofing. So with dynamic ARP inspection, you can have a hacker that connects to your network, and what they do is they actually spoof the IP address of, say, a default gateway, for example. And they also use their local address. That what they do is then send a gratuitous ARP with the IP address of the default gateway as well as the local MAC address. So what happens is when that goes into the ARP table, it'll replace the legitimate ARP entry for the default gateway. So now you have what's called ARP table poisoning. All traffic will end up being redirected to that hacker machine because they think that's the default gateway. With dynamic ARP inspection then, same traffic from hacker machine is then dropped since it won't match what's in the DHCP binding table. That's how it prevents ARP spoofing. So what I have to do is enable dynamic ARP inspection on switch 1 and switch 2 and also configure trusted interfaces. So we'll go to switch 1. And it's configured per VLAN. So IP ARP inspection VLAN 10. And also IP ARP inspection VLAN 1. And then on interface FA03, I want to configure that as trusted. That's done. Now I'll go to switch 2 and do the same thing. That's on VLAN 11 and VLAN 1. I'm also going to compare FA01 and FA02 as trusted. Okay, that's done. This is the command show IP ARP inspection. We could also do it per VLAN as well. Show IP ARP inspection VLAN 11. So VLAN 11, it's enabled and active. Everything looks good there. Switch 1, same thing. VLAN 10 enabled. And that concludes the video.